Okay, so now we're going to start looking into the advanced functionalities of this text recognition features, and this involves creating new commands and some new and interesting tricks. So let's start by creating a basic command. I already have a few. I'll go back to MemoQ and say, for example, this text doesn't have any tag in it. But say that, for example, I would want to have something like a keystroke that would allow me to put things in superscript or subscript, or I don't know if this one works, but let me see. One thing that I do, you may have noticed that they have this capitalization issues. And in this case, well, let's make a command for toggle case. You can see it over here that the keystroke is Shift F3. However, this is a virtual machine. And as a virtual machine, your keystrokes are not being mapped into into MemoQ or even into Windows. They're being mapped from OS X into Parallels Desktop and from Parallels Desktop into whatever you are running on your virtual machine. So, as we can see, the keystroke here is, oh, bloody hell, Shift F3. So let's make sure it actually maps correctly. We go into the settings on Parallels Desktop and we go into Configure. We go into the options regarding keyboard and we press shortcuts. And you now have several shortcuts as far as keyboard goes. You can see several devices such as application shortcuts that you have already predefined, system shortcuts, mouse shortcuts if you want to as well. You have a couple over here that are keystroke commands, and then you have some specific ones for the virtual machine. And now you can see that I have a couple of here. After the Win plus Z, all of these, actually this Control Shift Left, Control Shift Right thing, these were all defined by me so that I could get some basic functionalities on the keyboard. I'm now going to add one for, and I forgot the complication, the keystroke combination for Shift F3. You just press this little button over here to add a new one, and you press Shift function and F3, and you want to map it to Shift and Shift and F3. Okay, so you can see that this is the keystroke on the Mac, this is the keystroke on the virtual machine, and you now define it. Cool. So whenever I press Shift and F3 on my Mac, inside the virtual machine, it converts it to the keystroke exactly the same, but on the Windows-based version of the keystroke. This is pretty cool. So we now go back a little bit and get out of this window and move on to the wonderful menu of the accessibilities. Go back into dictation commands, and let's create a new command. And the new command, oh, I should probably, by the way, if you start creating a new command, you don't finish it, you always get these undefined command listings over here grayed out. Just wipe them all out. You really don't need them. Let's just create a new one. And now you have to give something. You want to tell dictation that when you say a certain word, you want it to execute, word or expression, you wanted it to execute this command. And what I'm going to use is a word that I never really use, which is the Portuguese word for capitals. And I'm going to limit it. You can use it system-wide, or you can actually use it only on parallels. This is pretty good, because when you limit it like this, you can have commands that will not mess up with whatever way you work with your operating system. So I just pick up Parallels Desktop, and this command only works when you're in Parallels Desktop. And now you have to choose an action to be executed. And the action may be, you open a file, you open an application, you run a process, an automated process, which we will see later. You paste text, you paste data, or you use a keyboard shortcut. And in this case, I want a keyboard shortcut, and I want to use Shift F3. So you can now see where this is going. When I say this word, dictation will issue a Shift F3 command on OS X, which will be remapped into the proper Shift F3 command in Parallels. In this case, when I'm running MemoQ in parallel. So the command is defined already. I'll go over here and let's see if it works. I'll bring up the dictation menu and I will try to say the command and see if it changes the capitalization on the word I have selected. Maiúscula. 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 Eureka, it works. You can now actually create as many commands as you want. This was a very simple example. You could possibly even run scripts using this. You can do some sort of magic with all this stuff. And for me, the ones I found more useful when using MemoQ, which is my main weapon of choice as far as translating goes, were actually dealing with these. Tags are awful things. So having a command that will wipe all tags and make them or insert them one by one at your cursor position is pretty neat, and was one of the first commands I actually made. You can also get commands for anything, like just, doing the QA. I mean, whatever functionalities you use the most, bring up MemoQ TM search, bring up MemoQ web search, whatever. You can create whatever commands you want that will help you in whatever application. This is not limited to Parallels Desktop or whatever you run inside it. You can also do commands for OS X based applications.